You're standing at the edge of your potential, looking across a vast canyon of possibility, but something holds you back. That voice inside your head whispers that you're not ready, not capable, not worthy. Every day, you watch others leap across that same canyon, achieving what you only dream about. The difference isn't talent, resources, or luck. It's something Napoleon Hill discovered after studying the world's most successful individuals for over 25 years. An inevitable secret of inner strength that transforms any life willing to embrace it. This isn't just another motivational idea. It's the fundamental difference between those who merely exist and those who truly live. And in the next few minutes, you'll discover why this secret has remained hidden in plain sight, and how activating it today will forever alter the trajectory of your existence. Your greatest limitations aren't external, they're the walls you've built in your own mind. Every morning, you wake up in a prison cell that you cannot see. The walls are transparent but impenetrable. The bars are invisible but unyielding. You go about your day believing you're free, making choices, taking actions, pursuing goals, but in reality, you're operating within the narrow confines of what Napoleon Hill called your mental limitations. These aren't physical restrictions. They're not financial barriers. They're not even lack of opportunity. They are the subconscious boundaries you've established for yourself, brick by brick, disappointment by disappointment, fear by fear. When Napoleon Hill interviewed Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history, Carnegie didn't speak about financial strategies or business tactics. Instead, he revealed that any person who has reached the age of reason has the ability to affect, control, or completely reshape the circumstances of their life. Yet 97% of people will live and die without ever recognizing the prison they've constructed around themselves. Look around you. That promotion you want but haven't pursued. That business you dream of starting but haven't begun. That relationship you desire but haven't cultivated. These aren't distant possibilities. They're standing just outside the walls of your mental prison, waiting for you to break free. The most dangerous aspect of this prison isn't its strength, it's its invisibility. You cannot dismantle what you cannot see. And until you recognize the extent to which your own thoughts have confined you, you'll continue to wonder why success seems to come so easily to others while remaining frustratingly elusive for you. What would your life look like if these walls suddenly disappeared? Who would you become if these limitations vanished overnight? The person you envision in that moment of clarity, that is your true self, waiting to be unleashed. The question isn't whether you can become that person. The question is, will you finally make the decision to tear down these walls today, or will you continue to accept the limitations you've placed on your own potential? Your inner strength isn't something you develop, it's something you uncover and unleash. Napoleon Hill didn't discover the secret to creating inner strength. After interviewing over 500 of the world's most accomplished individuals, from Thomas Edison to Henry Ford, he revealed something far more profound. The extraordinary power you seek already exists within you. It isn't something you need to build, it's something you need to uncover. Hill called this the master key, the singular force that separates extraordinary achievement from ordinary existence. When Alexander Graham Bell was ridiculed for attempting to transmit the human voice through wire, it wasn't external resources that kept him persisting through 10,000 failed attempts. It was his unwavering connection to his inner reservoir of strength. When Henry Ford was told by experts that creating a V8 engine with a single casting was impossible, it wasn't additional knowledge that drove him to prove them wrong. It was his absolute refusal to accept the limitations placed upon him by others. The master key isn't positive thinking. It isn't visualization. It isn't even determination. It's the profound realization that within you exists a force so powerful that, once unleashed, nothing in the physical world can stand against it. Hill discovered that this inner strength operates according to a simple principle. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Not as wishful thinking, but as an immutable law of human potential. This isn't mysticism. It's the practical recognition that your thoughts directly influence your actions. Your actions create your habits. Your habits shape your character, and your character determines your destiny. The chain reaction begins with a single thought, a thought you have complete control over. Right now, you're either drawing upon this inner strength or you're disconnected from it. There is no middle ground. When you're connected, obstacles become stepping stones. When you're disconnected, stepping stones appear as insurmountable barriers. The quality of your life isn't determined by what happens to you. It's determined by the degree to which you're tapped into this inexhaustible source of power within you. Today, you face a decision that will ripple through every dimension of your existence. Will you continue to operate under the illusion that strength comes from external circumstances? Or will you finally take possession of the master key that unlocks your true potential? Without a burning desire, fixated on a specific goal, your inner strength remains dormant. Napoleon Hill made a discovery that shattered conventional wisdom about achievement. Inner strength without direction is like a powerful engine without a destination. It rumbles with potential but ultimately goes nowhere. This is why the first principle in his philosophy is establishing a definite major purpose, a specific, clearly defined objective that ignites a burning desire within you. This isn't about setting casual goals or creating vague intentions. Edison didn't casually hope to invent the light bulb. He was consumed by it. Ford didn't simply wish to create an affordable automobile. He was obsessed with it. Barnes didn't merely want to work with Edison. He was willing to sweep floors just to be in proximity to the opportunity. Look at your current goals. Are they specific enough that you could explain them to a child? Are they compelling enough that they're the first thing you think about when you wake up and the last thing on your mind before you sleep? If not, you haven't established a definite, major purpose, and your inner strength remains largely untapped. Hill discovered something remarkable about human psychology. The mind doesn't respond to needs. It responds to precise, emotionally charged commands. When you declare, "I want to be wealthy," your mind has nothing concrete to work with. But when you state, "I will earn $150,000 by December 31st by providing exceptional value through my business," your mind suddenly has a clear target to pursue. The moment you establish a definite major purpose, three things happen simultaneously. First, your subconscious mind begins working on solutions 24 hours a day, even while you sleep. Second, you develop a heightened awareness for resources and opportunities related to your goal that were always present but previously invisible to you. Third, and most importantly, you activate the dormant inner strength that Napoleon Hill identified as the common denominator among all high achievers. There's a profound difference between interest and commitment. The world is filled with interested people. They're interested in financial freedom. They're interested in optimal health. They're interested in fulfilling relationships. But interest evaporates at the first sign of adversity. Commitment, fueled by a burning desire for a definite, major purpose, only intensifies when faced with obstacles. The question isn't whether you have goals. The question is whether you have a singular purpose so compelling that it automatically prioritizes your thoughts, focuses your actions, and activates your inner reservoir of strength. Without this, you're not directing your life, you're merely reacting to circumstances. Right now, you must decide. Will you continue drifting without clear direction? Or will you establish the definite purpose that channels your inner strength toward inevitable achievement? The most dangerous enemy you'll ever face is operating from within your own mind. While studying the world's highest achievers, Napoleon Hill made a startling discovery. Each of them had confronted and conquered an adversary far more formidable than any external competitor. This enemy wasn't visible in the physical world. It couldn't be defeated through conventional means. Yet, its influence determined the ultimate success or failure of every human being. Hill called this the invisible saboteur, the part of your mind that works tirelessly to maintain your status quo, even when that status quo is miserable. This saboteur operates through 6 primary mechanisms that you experience every day without recognizing their source. First is fear. Not just fear of failure, but more insidiously, fear of success and the responsibilities it brings. Second is procrastination, the subtle art of postponing your life one day at a time. Third is doubt, the corrosive questioning that erodes confidence precisely when you need it most. Fourth is negative influences, the people and messages that reinforce limitations rather than possibilities. Fifth is indecision, the paralyzing state of weighing options without committing to action. And sixth is lack of persistence, giving up when success was just beyond the next obstacle. Henry Ford encountered this invisible saboteur when experts insisted his vision for a V8 engine was impossible. Thomas Edison faced it during the thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb. Helen Keller confronted it when the world told her that her disabilities would define her limitations. In each case, the real battle wasn't in the laboratory or the marketplace, it was in the mind. The saboteur's greatest strength is its stealth. It disguises itself as wisdom, speaking in a voice that sounds reasonable, protective, and logical. You should wait until you're more prepared. Someone with your background can't achieve that level of success. The timing isn't right yet. These aren't prudent considerations. They're the whispers of your invisible enemy, designed to keep you safely imprisoned in mediocrity. Here's the most important truth Napoleon Hill discovered. This saboteur gains its power exclusively from your consent. The moment you withdraw permission, the moment you recognize these thoughts as an external adversary, rather than your authentic voice, the saboteur begins to weaken. Its influence diminishes not through fighting, but through the simple act of recognition. When you hear those limiting thoughts arise, simply acknowledge, "That is not me. That is the voice of resistance, and I do not grant it authority over my actions." Today, you stand at a crossroads. Will you continue allowing this invisible saboteur to hijack your potential, or will you reclaim your power by recognizing its deceptive influence? Your future isn't determined by external circumstances, it's determined by which voice within you will command your attention. The secret of permanent transformation isn't information, it's the emotions you consistently associate with your decisions. When Napoleon Hill set out to discover why some people achieve extraordinary results while others remain stuck, he expected to find intellectual differences, superior strategies, better information, or more resources. Instead, he discovered something far more fundamental. Transformation isn't driven by what you know, it's driven by what you feel. Emotion, not information, is the catalyst that converts knowledge into action. Consider this: you already know what you need to do to improve your life. You know you should save and invest more money. You know you should eat healthier foods and exercise regularly. You know you should focus on high-priority tasks instead of distractions. Knowledge isn't your problem. Your problem is that knowledge without emotional intensity remains merely intellectual entertainment. Hill observed that every person who achieved lasting success had discovered how to emotionally charge their decisions. When Edison worked for days without sleep to solve a problem, it wasn't rational calculation driving him. It was an emotional connection to his vision so intense that physical discomfort became irrelevant. When Ford continued pursuing his vision despite repeated failures, it wasn't logical persistence, it was emotional commitment that overrode rational doubts. There's a profound difference between intellectual understanding and emotional commitment. Understanding speaks to your mind. Commitment speaks to your soul. Understanding acknowledges what's possible. Commitment declares what's inevitable. The transformative power Hill discovered wasn't in setting better goals. It was in infusing those goals with unbearable emotional intensity. This explains why so many people can attend a seminar, read a book, or watch a video, feel temporarily motivated, but quickly revert to old patterns. They experienced an emotional spike without creating an emotional foundation. Lasting transformation requires attaching sustainable emotions to your decisions, not just excitement and inspiration, but deeper drivers like purpose, identity, and contribution. The secret to establishing this emotional foundation lies in a practice Hill called autosuggestion, the deliberate commanding of your subconscious through emotionally charged directives. It's not enough to think about what you want. You must feel it with such intensity that your body responds as if it's already happening. This isn't visualization, it's the complete emotional embodiment of your desired future state. Right now, you have a choice to make. Will you continue consuming information without emotional integration, collecting knowledge that never translates into transformation? Or will you begin the practice of emotionally charging your decisions, creating the psychological catalyst that converts knowledge into power? The person you become won't be determined by what you learn. It will be determined by what you feel deeply enough to act upon consistently. The single quality that guarantees eventual success is the one most people abandon precisely when it's most needed. After studying achievement for over 25 years, Napoleon Hill came to a startling conclusion. Talent, education, connections, and even luck. None of these predicted ultimate success. The only guaranteed predictor was persistence, the ability to maintain action regardless of feelings, results, or circumstances. More importantly, Hill discovered that persistence isn't an innate trait, it's a discipline developed through a specific mental framework. Consider the story of Darby, a man who gave up mining for gold just 3 feet from one of the richest veins ever discovered. After substantial investment and effort, facing mounting challenges, he sold his equipment for a fraction of its worth and abandoned his claim. The man who purchased it simply continued digging and found the gold Darby had been seeking all along. The difference wasn't knowledge, opportunity, or resources. It was purely persistence. This isn't just a story about mining. It's the universal pattern Hill observed across all achievement. Most people give up at the first, second, or third obstacle. A select few develop the mental fortitude to persist beyond the breaking point of the average person. And here's what Hill discovered about that breaking point. It's almost always followed directly by the achievement you've been seeking. Thomas Edison famously conducted over 10,000 experiments before successfully creating the light bulb. When asked about these failures, he responded, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. I successfully found 10,000 ways that don't work." This isn't positive thinking, it's the persistence mindset that transforms obstacles from discouragement into data, setbacks from defeat into education. The difference between those who achieve and those who don't isn't the absence of failure. It's the response to it. When Henry Ford's engineers repeatedly told him that creating a V8 engine with a single block casting was impossible, he didn't argue with their expertise. He simply said, "Produce it anyway." His persistence overrode their expertise, and the impossible became reality. The most dangerous moment in any journey isn't the beginning. It's the dark night of the soul that inevitably arrives when results don't match expectations, when enthusiasm fades, when difficulties multiply. This is precisely when most people abandon their pursuits. And this is exactly when those destined for achievement double down on their commitment. Here's the transformative insight Hill discovered. Persistence isn't something you have, it's something you decide. It's not an emotion, it's a position you take, regardless of emotions. It's not dependent on immediate results. It's the sustained action that eventually produces results when nothing else seems to be working. Today, you face the most important question of achievement. Will you be among the majority who abandon their most important goals when persistence is most needed? Or will you be among the few who continue taking action until breakthrough inevitably occurs? This single decision, more than any other factor, will determine whether your potential remains dormant or becomes your lived reality. The most overlooked accelerator of inner strength is the strategic association with minds aligned toward your purpose. Napoleon Hill's most unexpected discovery was that no great achievement occurs in isolation. After studying hundreds of history's highest achievers, he found that behind every apparent self-made success was an invisible network he called the Mastermind Alliance. A group of minds working in perfect harmony toward a shared objective. This wasn't just convenient collaboration. It was the deliberate amplification of each individual's inner strength through the chemistry of compatible minds. When Henry Ford faced seemingly insurmountable engineering challenges, he didn't rely solely on his own knowledge. He assembled a team of brilliant minds dedicated to his vision. When Thomas Edison needed to solve complex problems, he created environments where multiple perspectives could combine to produce solutions no single mind could conceive. Their greatest achievements weren't products of isolated genius, but of orchestrated, collective intelligence. What Hill realized was profound. Inner strength isn't just amplified through association. In many ways, it's created through it. The human mind, when isolated, naturally gravitates toward limitation and doubt. But when strategically connected with aligned minds, it expands beyond its individual boundaries, accessing capabilities that wouldn't exist in isolation. This isn't about casual networking or surrounding yourself with positive people. The mastermind principle is far more strategic. It involves deliberately creating connections with specific individuals whose knowledge, resources, and qualities complement your own. It's not friendship, though it may include it. It's the conscious creation of a mental and spiritual alliance that elevates every member beyond their individual capacity. The most important aspect of the mastermind is what Hill called the third mind. The intelligence that emerges when two or more minds unite in harmony. This isn't mystical thinking. It's the practical recognition that certain cognitive and creative capabilities only emerge through the right kind of intellectual cooperation. Solutions appear that weren't available to any individual. Insights emerge that transcend personal perspective. Energy multiplies rather than merely combines. Look at your current associations. Are they strategically selected to amplify your strengths and compensate for your weaknesses? Do they share your level of commitment to excellence? Are they operating at or above the level you aspire to reach? If not, you're missing the extraordinary leverage that transformed ordinary individuals into world-changing forces throughout history. The question isn't whether you're capable of achieving your objectives alone. The question is, why would you choose to, when the strategic association with the right minds would exponentially accelerate your progress? Today, you must decide. Will you continue operating within the limitations of your isolated mind? Or will you begin deliberately creating the mastermind alliance that can transform your potential into inevitable achievement? Your most painful failures contain the essential elements of your greatest successes, if you know how to transform them. The most profound secret Napoleon Hill uncovered wasn't about avoiding failure, it was about transmuting it. After studying countless success stories, he discovered a pattern so consistent it couldn't be coincidence. The greatest achievements often emerged directly from the most devastating setbacks. Like alchemists attempting to transform lead into gold, the most successful individuals had developed the ability to extract opportunity from adversity. Are you? Darby's uncle stopped drilling for gold just 3 feet away from one of the richest veins in Colorado. This devastating financial loss taught Darby a lesson he applied to insurance sales, where he became one of the most successful salespeople in history. By developing a simple philosophy, I will persist just 3 feet further than the point where the average person gives up. His greatest failure contained the seed of his greatest success. When Thomas Edison's laboratory burned to the ground, destroying years of research and irreplaceable records, his response defied conventional logic. The next morning, surveying the destruction, he famously said, "There is great value in disaster. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew." Within 3 weeks, he had established temporary operations, and within a year, his team had made some of their most significant breakthroughs. The disaster forced innovation that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. Hill called this the seed of equivalent benefit, the principle that within every failure or setback exists the seed of an equal or greater benefit. This isn't positive thinking or silver lining platitudes. It's the practical recognition that failure, properly processed, contains information, redirection, and forced innovation that success never provides. The difference between those who remain defeated and those who transform defeat lies in a single question. What's the opportunity within this obstacle? Most people never ask this question. They stop at, "Why did this happen to me?" Those destined for achievement make asking the transformative question their immediate response to every setback. This explains why so many world-changing innovations emerged from apparent disasters. It's why companies facing extinction sometimes pivot to become industry leaders. It's why individuals who lose everything sometimes rebuild with greater success than they had before. They're not succeeding despite their failures, they're succeeding because of how they transformed their failures. The most powerful application of this principle isn't just extracting lessons from setbacks. It's actively seeking the hidden opportunity they contain. It's recognizing that the path to your objective may require temporary detours that ultimately accelerate your progress. It's understanding that what initially appears as failure may sort to be the universe redirecting you toward a better approach. Today, you face a choice that will determine whether your setbacks become permanent obstacles or valuable redirections. Will you continue seeing failures as evidence of your limitations, or will you begin extracting from them the precise information and opportunity needed for your inevitable success? The alchemist's secret isn't avoiding lead, it's transforming it into gold. The most potent form of inner strength emerges when you redirect rather than suppress your most powerful drives. Napoleon Hill's most controversial discovery was what he called sex transmutation, though the principle extends far beyond its name. After studying the world's highest achievers, he noticed they shared a distinctive ability. redirecting powerful, emotional, and physical drives toward creative achievement, instead of allowing them to dissipate through their most obvious outlets. This wasn't about suppression or denial. It was about the conscious channeling of life's most potent energies. The principle is simple yet profound. The emotional forces that drive humans toward physical pleasure, accumulation, or immediate gratification contain enormous creative potential. When these forces are merely indulged, their energy dissipates quickly. But when deliberately redirected toward achievement, they fuel extraordinary accomplishment. Thomas Edison's manic work sessions, sometimes lasting days without sleep, weren't fueled by caffeine or discipline alone. They were powered by the transmuted emotional intensity that most people dissipate through immediate gratification. Henry Ford's relentless pursuit of his vision, despite repeated failures, wasn't sustained by rational persistence. It was energized by redirected emotional drives that most people exhaust through lesser activities. This transmutation occurs through a three-step process that anyone can apply. First, recognize your most powerful emotional and physical drives without judgment. Second, consciously decide to redirect rather than immediately satisfy these drives. Third, channel this redirected energy directly into your most important creative pursuits. The most obvious application is sexual energy. The drive that Hill observed was most commonly transmuted by high achievers. But the principle applies equally to anger, fear, competitive impulses, and even the desire for immediate pleasure. Any powerful emotional state contains energy that can be redirected rather than expressed in its most obvious form. Consider how anger, when expressed directly, dissipates quickly and often destructively. But when the same emotional intensity is redirected toward solving the problem that created the anger, it fuels innovation and determined action. Fear, when succumbed to, leads to paralysis. But when its energy is redirected toward preparation and strategic action, it becomes a powerful driver of achievement. This isn't about suppressing natural drives. Suppression creates psychological pressure that eventually erupts destructively. Transmutation is about conscious redirection of energy toward higher-level achievement. It's about treating your emotional states as valuable resources rather than masters to be obeyed or enemies to be suppressed. The difference between those who achieve greatly and those who merely wish is often found in this single principle. The achiever directs emotional energy toward creation. The wisher allows that same energy to dissipate through immediate gratification, leaving insufficient power for meaningful accomplishment. Today, you have a choice about how you'll utilize your most powerful emotional drives. Will you continue allowing them to dissipate through their most obvious outlets, leaving you depleted for meaningful achievement? Or will you begin practicing the deliberate transmutation that converts these drives into fuel for extraordinary accomplishment? Your answer will determine whether your emotional intensity becomes a source of dissipation or a wellspring of creative power. The transformation from who you are to who you could be hinges on a single decision that no one can make for you. After 25 years of studying the world's highest achievers, Napoleon Hill came to a conclusion that initially frustrated him. There was no technique, strategy, or system that could guarantee success. Instead, he discovered that transformation ultimately came down to a singularity, a precise moment of decision that separated those who achieved greatly from those who merely wished they could. This wasn't a decision about methods or approaches. It was a fundamental choice about identity and inevitability. Hill called this the burning bridge decision, the moment when you destroy all possibility of retreat. It's not deciding to try something. It's not deciding to do your best. It's deciding that achievement is the only acceptable outcome, regardless of obstacles, setbacks, or time required. It's the moment when "I'll do this or die trying" ceases to be hyperbole and becomes a literal statement of commitment. When W. Clement Stone arrived penniless in Detroit during the Great Depression and declared, "I will become a millionaire by age 30. It wasn't a goal or an affirmation. It was an inevitable decision. He had determined that failure simply wasn't an option he would entertain, regardless of circumstances. Within his self-imposed time frame, he had actually multiplied his objective 6 times over. The inevitable decision operates on 3 levels simultaneously. First, it eliminates all competing priorities, focusing all your mental and physical resources on a single objective. Second, it removes time constraints, committing to persistence until success is achieved rather than until a predetermined deadline. Third, and most importantly, it transforms the achievement from an external goal into an internal identity. You don't pursue it because you want it. You pursue it because it's who you are. This explains why some people facing identical circumstances produce radically different results. It's why immigrants with no resources sometimes build business empires, while those with every advantage remain stuck. It's why individuals with physical disabilities sometimes achieve what able-bodied people consider impossible. The inevitable decision transcends circumstances, resources, and even apparent capabilities. The most dangerous illusion in achievement is that you can keep your options open. Maintaining escape routes feels safe, but it guarantees you'll use them at the first sign of serious difficulty. The inevitable decision burns these bridges, creating a psychological state where forward momentum becomes the only possibility. When retreat isn't an option, the mind creates solutions it wouldn't otherwise discover. This isn't about taking foolish risks or making impulsive commitments. The inevitable decision comes after careful consideration of what you truly want and what you're willing to sacrifice to obtain it. It's not emotional, it's the sober recognition that half measures produce half results, and that extraordinary achievement requires extraordinary commitment. Today, you stand at the threshold of the most important choice you'll ever make. Not what strategy to use or what goal to pursue, but whether you'll make the inevitable decision that transforms achievement from a possibility into a certainty. Will you continue keeping your options open, maintaining comfortable escape routes that guarantee eventual abandonment? Or will you make the single decision upon which all meaningful achievement ultimately depends? The inner strength that transforms any life isn't found, it's unleashed through conscious awakening. Napoleon Hill's 25-year investigation led him to a conclusion that defied conventional wisdom about achievement. The power to transform your life doesn't come from acquiring something new. It comes from awakening what already exists within you. This inner strength, this sleeping giant, has always been present. It has simply been dormant, waiting for the precise combination of purpose, belief, and action to bring it to life. Throughout history, ordinary individuals have accomplished extraordinary feats not because they discovered new capabilities, but because circumstances forced them to tap into reservoirs of strength they never knew they possessed. A mother lifts a car to save her child. A man with no formal education builds an industry empire. A woman from the most challenging circumstances rises to transform her field. These aren't anomalies or exceptions. They're glimpses of the dormant potential that exists within every person. The difference between those who achieve greatly and those who don't isn't capacity, it's activation. It's the deliberate awakening of inner forces that remain dormant in most people throughout their entire lives. This awakening doesn't happen by accident. It occurs through the specific principles Napoleon Hill uncovered: definite purpose, mastermind alliance, transmutation of energy, the overcoming of fear, and the inevitable decision. When these principles converge, something remarkable happens. The invisible prison walls dissolve, the limiting beliefs lose their power, the fears that once paralyzed become fuel for forward motion. And most importantly, you stop operating as a fraction of yourself and begin expressing your full, authentic potential. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who you truly are, beneath the layers of limitation, doubt, and conformity. It's about stripping away the artificial constraints until what remains is the most powerful version of yourself, the person you were always meant to be. This awakened giant isn't a metaphor. It's the authentic expression of your capabilities once the artificial limitations have been removed. The tragedy, Napoleon Hill observed, wasn't that people failed to achieve their goals. The tragedy was that most people lived and died without ever discovering the extraordinary capability that lay dormant within them. They settled for mediocrity not because they lacked capacity, but because they never awakened the giant of inner strength that could have transformed their existence. The question isn't whether this giant exists within you. The question is whether you'll make the decision to awaken it. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances improve, not when you have more resources or support, but today, in this moment, through the deliberate application of the principles that have transformed ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers throughout human history. Your life will be defined not by what happens to you, but by what you awaken within you. The dormant strength that Napoleon Hill discovered isn't the exclusive property of the successful, the privileged, or the fortunate. It's the universal inheritance of every human being with the courage to claim it. The only question that remains is, will you? The inevitable secret of inner strength isn't finding something new. It's awakening what has always been within you, waiting for the moment you decide to remove the limitations you've placed upon yourself and step into the full expression of who you truly are. That moment is now. The decision is yours, and the transformation is inevitable for those who make it.